Hello, I hope you're doing well. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about burnout and specifically how to recover from work burnout. And in order for me to do that, I'm going to be discussing more of what burnout really is, what are some of the signs of it, and how did I experience it, because currently I am in my stage of trying to recover from it. So please sit back and relax, and if you feel like you can relate to this topic as well, feel free to share your experience in the comments. So I guess to begin with, if you aren't familiar with burnout, don't worry. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't relate with the term burnout until I entered college. So burnout to me specifically is a feeling of where you just feel super exhausted. I don't care what perspective it is. I feel like you could be burnt out through physical, mental, emotional, physiological, any of those needs. And what burnout basically results in is you feeling just super exhausted because of the stress that just keeps on piling up. So as you can tell from the title, I'm talking about recovering from burnout, and I wanted to talk to you about my experiences with it. So into terms with that, when I first experienced burnout, I was working in a very busy school environment. I was always so focused on my academic studies. I felt like I wasn't really putting enough energy and time for myself. I felt the need that I had to constantly work, and not only that, but for me at the time, it was really hard for me to take breaks because I grew up in a household and I belong to a culture where I feel like your value is based off of your productivity of that day. So I always told myself like, let me just get this done first and then I'll get some rest. Oh wait, but there's still one more thing. Let me finish this first and then get some rest. Oh wait, I still have one more thing. I want to finish this first and then get some rest. And that eventually would start piling up until the very end of the day. And then I realized that my only form of self-care was really just sleep. And I'm not necessarily saying that sleep isn't a form of self-care, but there should be definitely more to it in terms of taking care of myself. Now, at the time, this is going to sound really crazy, but I was in a program at that college. During my third year, I had a complete mental breakdown. I was working 2 jobs, I had an internship, and I believe I had a total of 10 classes. And they were back to back. Like, I had classes from 8 a.m. to 6:30. And during this time, I just felt like I needed to completely distract myself so that way I could avoid being depressed. But of course, one thing led to another. I feel as if even though I was trying to avoid my depression by being busy with myself, I wasn't necessarily pinpointing what I needed to feel better, because my mindset at the time was just on survival, where I was just like work, and you'll feel better. But I know now that that's not something healthy, because I wasn't treating myself the way I should be treated. I wasn't taking interest in hobbies. I wasn't going out with friends. I almost found myself in a moment of detachment again. And at that moment, towards the end of that semester, I actually just ended up staying with a family member for the last couple of months of the semester, because I found myself to be waking up so anxious and going to bed so anxious, to the point where I actually ended up getting a stress-induced fever. Yes, people, I know you probably heard it from someone else, but it's true. If you don't listen to your body, I know I sound pretty young and it's taking me a while to figure this out, but if you don't listen to your body, the body will just completely shut down. And I remember how much pain I was in at that time. So I guess in terms of that, when it comes to burnout, I feel like I never got to experience it until college, but also at the same time, I felt that what led up to my burnout in the early years was definitely the fast-paced culture that I grew up in. During that time, when I was growing up, my mom would always be working 24/7, and I'll be perfectly honest, I never felt the need to even ask what was she doing to take care of herself, because my mom was just hustling. And I look back at it now and I realize she truly did sacrifice a lot for us. But at the moment, I really looked up to my mom because I carried my mom's mindset into college, thinking that, oh, if my mom did this and this and this while having a family to take care of, then certainly I could be doing the same, right? Like, clearly, I can accomplish just as much as she did. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of still hold that against me sometimes, where there are days where I just want to rest, but then I think about like, oh dang, I remember when mom was sick and she was still cooking and cleaning and doing laundry, and here I am just resting. It sounds painful to say, but at the time I really did think that, and I'll be honest, I'm still kind of dealing with that mindset, especially with right now. Breaks are something that are super hard for me to understand at the moment, and currently I'm taking a break from my work because I found myself to burn out. I feel like I'm saying burnout a lot, I apologize. But so to go off of it, that leads to the question, what have I been doing to recover from my burnout? So the first thing I immediately thought is that I need to find a hobby. Like, no joke, I just need to find something that brings me joy. And if you had watched my previous video that I posted, I discussed the differences between happiness and joy and how I lean more towards happiness. But basically, the first hobby that I initially decided to go to was actually trying to edit and make videos like this one, because I recently found some interest and I guess pleasure, as you can say, to just doing this and releasing my thoughts, because I find it to be therapeutic, and hopefully someone out there could be listening and they might find it therapeutic too and are willing to share their experience. But that was one of the hobbies that I've been doing. I also have now had the time to go to the gym more often. I feel like that takes a lot of stress off my mind and a lot of anxiety. I will say though that for some reason I've had this habit where around the first few days of when I initially was supposed to start my break, I felt so anxious and I felt so paranoid. I felt like I had just let everyone down. I cried to family, I cried to friends, I cried to myself. It was hard because it was such a long break, and it was hard to see my coworkers being able to handle the same work ethic that I did, but I couldn't mentally and emotionally handle it. The workforce was fine, my team was great, but I was so exhausted to the point where I felt as if my passion at the job became a chore, and I started seeing this bitterness in me where I just didn't want to go to work that much anymore. And that's one of the signs of burnout, because I've had the privilege to be in a workforce that I truly do love, but because I felt like I was working over hours, I didn't get the time to take care of myself just like I did in college. So I made the decision to leave for my health. And I'm honestly still going over that grief phase and comparing phase of where I wish I could have done better. But I look back and I need to be gentle with myself. I know that now. it's hard, guys. It's really hard. And if you're anything like me, you would know that the first thing that comes into your mind maybe is that when you ask for a break, you start to feel maybe the sense of embarrassment because you don't want to be vulnerable in front of your boss. That was my very first reaction when I was brought up the idea of taking a medical leave. Not only did I feel embarrassed, I felt hopeless, even though I knew I needed it. I had to ask myself this, that if I continued to stay, would I be actually bringing my 100 to that work environment? No. My 100 would be 50, and then the next week would probably be 40, and then so on and so forth. It would go down to the point where I feel like there would be no passion at all into my job, which is why I really had to be a bit selfish here and take that break. So beyond from recovering from burnout, I'm recovering from grief. I'm recovering from guilt. And something that I'll never forget is that no matter how many breaks you take in this world, everything, life itself, it will always move on. And so I'm also in my phase of trying to move on. But, yep. So that's all I have to say about that for now. Again, if you have any experiences about burnout that you feel comfortable sharing, please feel free to comment below. If you're interested in hearing more content about mental health or any other topics, maybe you can leave some suggestions, and I would love to hear them. Please subscribe or like if you liked what you heard today. And again, for those of you who are going through problems right now in your health, I wanted to let you know that it's going to be okay. I promise. Thank you.